Africa. Today's webinar, it's part of a series of webinars the GrEEn project being led by SMV has been doing. Our first webinar was 2 weeks ago. It was on the renewable energy sector. Thanks to those of you who participated. Last week, we had a webinar on how COVID-19 has affected service delivery to MSMEs in Ghana. Today, the webinar is on the agricultural sector, and we are validating SMV's agricultural sector market scan webinar. My name, as your moderator today, is Alex Kojo Bwahoma. Before we proceed, I would like to introduce the other two people who would have a significant role on this webinar. But first, let me show my face. Yes, so this is me. I am your moderator, Alex Kojo Bwahoma. The next person is the project director who will be speaking shortly after me, Beatrice Schenkel. Beatrice, please.
Yes, hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the GrEEn webinar. My name is Beatrice Schenkel. I'm the project manager for the GrEEn project implemented by SNB.
Thank you, Beatrice. So yes, like I said, the person who will be making the actual presentation when the time is due, I would introduce him. So before the presentations come, I would like to make a couple of announcements. First, we as the presentations go, you are encouraged to ask questions. We would recommend you use the chat box, which is open. The next is after the presentation, there will be opportunity for you to ask your questions verbally. To do that, there is a raise your hand function on the webinar which you can use, and once you alert us, we would call you and unmute your mic so that you can also ask your question. The webinar, another thing to note is the webinar is being recorded, so all your questions, contribution, everything is being recorded. And later after this call, we will make that publicly available online, so you can go back to that webinar and listen to it. You can also share broadly among your network or among your contacts. So that is all for now. When it's time for you to ask questions, and I would remind you, we would encourage that you first introduce yourselves before you ask your question. But when it's time for the questions, I would remind you to do that. So without further ado, I would invite the project manager to give a very brief overview of the project.
Yes, good morning once again. Alex or Frank, can you show the slide on GrEEn?
Can you see my screen?
Okay, yes. So GrEEn is an acronym. GrEEn stands for Boosting Green Employment and Enterprise Opportunities in Ghana. Like Alex introduced, it's a 4-year project funded by the EU Trust Fund for Africa, and it's jointly implemented by UNCDF and SNB. GrEEn aims to support sustainable and climate resilient local economies in the creation of green jobs and enterprises. We are working in 2 regions in Ghana, that's the Ashanti and Western region. And we are targeting youth, women, returning migrants, and micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises and MSMEs. We have 4 result areas, 2 of which are led by UNTDF and 2 are implemented by SNV. Result 1 looks at stimulating local economies and creating short-term job opportunities through green and climate resilient investments at the local level. Result 2 focuses on improving employability and entrepreneurship capabilities of youth, women, and returning migrants. Result 3 is looking at increasing access to and use of financial services, which also includes leveraging on remittances. And result 4 is focused on incubation and acceleration of green SMEs with the aim of creating decent and sustainable jobs for youth, women, and returning migrants. As SNV, we are focusing on 3 core sectors, which are agriculture, renewable energy, and WASH, water, sanitation, and hygiene. So this is just a very brief overview of the GrEEn project. Alex, over to you.
Thank you very much, Beatrice, for the brief overview of the GrEEn project. Information about the project, it's also online, so you can search, and I think the inviting email to all of you also had a link to the project website, so you can visit our website and read all about the project. There are some materials about the project available online. So next, we are getting ready for why we are all here to listen to a presentation on the agricultural sector market scan that we have conducted. To give a little bit of an overview of why we are doing this market scan, so that my colleague can step in and do the presentation. As Beatrice indicated, for the GrEEn project and for SMV, we focus on 3 sectors: agriculture, renewable energy, and WASH, so water and sanitation. And we've already done a presentation on the renewable energy sector. Today's presentation is on agri, but particularly because our project focuses on employment creation, so employability, but then also SMEs. We are interested in what the opportunities for employment are, and we mean green employment are within these 3 subsectors. So what we are doing is carrying out what we call the detailed market scans, which then helps us identify, what the opportunities are, then we can promote. So today's presentation would give us an overview of the agricultural sector, but then zoom into what the opportunities are for green employment, especially in the 2 regions that we are interested in as a project. That is the Ashanti region and the Western region. So I would now introduce and invite my colleague to make the presentation. The presentation will be made by Mr. Frank Brobe. Frank Brobe is the agricultural sector lead or advisor for the project. He led the team to do this market scan, and he will lead us through what the major findings are. Mr. Frank Brobe, please take over.
So, thank you, Alex, for the introduction, and thank you, Beatrice. As he said, my name is Frank Brobe, the agricultural advisor on the project. I want to welcome everyone to this webinar series. So, objectives of the webinar, as Alex indicated, we will be validating the findings of the agricultural market scan to also introduce and also receive feedback from our participants to plan our intervention in the agricultural sector. First of all, I will humbly request that we take note of these questions as I run through the presentation. It will come up just at the end of the presentation for us to discuss. Definitely we will need your answers and your input to help us streamline our interventions in this sector. So we looked at the global outlook. Globally, climate change has been of a global concern and affecting a lot of agricultural production. The field assessment of the IPCC shown that global climate change is already damaging crops and undermining food production, consequently affecting food security. The outcome of the Rio Convention and the Agenda 2030 was the establishment of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, which was entered. The ultimate aim is to prevent and restrict dangerous human interference with the climate system. It's also in line with the Sustainable Development Goal, that's the Goal 2, Goal 11, and Goal 12. This goal seeks to promote sustainable agriculture or sustainable way of using the environment to support human population. Here we are looking at the distribution of global greenhouse gases emission by sector. It is clear that agriculture, forestry, and other land use is the second in terms of greenhouse emission. There is a relationship between agriculture and climate change. It's a two-way street. The greenhouse gases broadly affect production and consequently affecting food security. With the insurgence of COVID-19 pandemic, agriculture is seen as a way to help the economy to recover. It is our interest to make a deliberate effort to develop and also roll out new models of resilient food supply chain with focus on short-term supply chain, smart transport, market solution in the age of social distancing. And we'll also be looking at an app that could connect suppliers and consumers. And again, looking at the pandemic from World Health Organization, the most people that are at risk are above 50. And in Ghana, we will attest to the fact that the average age of a Ghanaian farmer from Mofa Stars is around 54 or 55 thereof. So there is a need for stakeholders to develop programs that will target the youth, creating employment in the agricultural sector, and ensure that the youth take leadership of these farms. Now, the national outlook. Ghana is also committed to AU's new partnership African development. In the development, we have a number of African countries that has prepared national agriculture and food security investment plan. And this plan seeks to devise strategies to address the effect of climate change. So in Ghana, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, that's MOFA, facilitated the development of these three important plan and policies. From the food and agriculture sector, development policy FASDEP, it emphasizes sustainable utilization of all resources and commercialization activities in the sector with market-driven growth. The National Climate Smart Agriculture and Food Security Plan, the plan outlines guidelines to guide development of climate smart agriculture. And the National Climate Change Policy, the policy is being enforced to protect vital sectors that are vulnerable to climate change in agriculture, forestry, and energy. So now we want to zoom into the market outlook. Looking at the stars, we have the share of the total labor force by the sector. It is clear that agriculture is the second highest sector, employing about 38.3% of the labor force. But in relating it to the share in GDP, we realize that agriculture sector is lagging behind, meaning that the share in GDP is decreasing. It's as a result of this climate change that we have to address. So as Beatrice said, the project is being implemented in Ashanti region and Western region. Here we want to look at the disaggregation where we have agriculture against non-agriculture in Ashanti region. We realize that about 37% are into agriculture in Ashanti region, whilst in Western it's 50-50 in terms of percentage. Now in disaggregation against male and female, in Ashanti region we have 49% that are females into agriculture, and these are household individuals. And in Western, we have 47% of female that are into agriculture. So here we are looking at prioritized value chains that we've decided to work within. So these are the value chains that we've targeted, we've worked in. All these, so on the tree crops, we are looking at cocoa, coconut, and oil palm. We are looking at fruit and vegetables, tomatoes, chili. We have the starchy staples, cereals, looking at cassava, yam, rice, farm animals, poultry, and piggery. Aquaculture, we are looking at fisheries. But the basis for the selection is as a result of the one ecological dominance of the subsector. For instance, if you take Western, you have a lot of coconut and a lot of oil palm in Western. When you come to Ashanti region, you have a lot of the poultry that are grown. You have a lot of people that are into yam and also into maize production. And secondly, we looked at the potential of the subsector to create jobs and internship placement for beneficiaries. Thirdly, we also look at the subsector presenting green business solution to address climate change. So here is a simplified value chain that we are looking at. Within this value chain, we are looking at employment opportunities along the value chain, from the input to the consumption. Is from the fork to the farm, from farm to fork. From input supplies, we are looking at women and youth are into seedlings production when it comes to the cocoa value chain, because it's a bit not laborious, low capital intensive. We have some of the retainees, the migrants that are into input shops. Some of the youth are high, skilled and unskilled at the input shops. You take the production where it is capital intensive. Most of the youth are hired to carry out spraying guns. You go into some of the communities. They are into associations, into spraying guns, and offering those services for the aged farmer. Harvesting, they do that. The aged farmer employ them to do the harvesting. Women basically also hired to do the transporting of the beans from the farm to the drying centers. Some of the youth and so the women are also hired to split the pot to just empty the beans. Retainees, migrants, they are into small to medium plantation. Some of the youth also take the opportunity of the plantation and do some intercropping whilst the cocoa trees are very young. Looking at the processing side of it, we look at the youth and women are hired to work. That's both skilled and unskilled in the processing firms. Retainees involved in small to medium processing into butter and cocoa liquor and others. We have women also and youth also into local processing of soap and butter and oils. At the marketing side, the youth hired, both skilled and unskilled. Retainees mostly into the marketing space of this sector. So down there we have services that are being provided, these support services such as extension services, consulting services. These are typically skilled labor. These are skilled. they provide such services along the value chain. So here we are also looking at the green business opportunities within the cocoa value chain. We have organic fertilizers and chemicals for cocoa production. Here, most of the association, the cocoa association, are being certified using a global gap certification. The waste from the cocoa, from the bean shell, from the pods, husks, are used, one for organic mulch and soil garden, for soil conditioner, for garden, and also for other farms. We have the waste being used as a source of renewable energy. Looking at also animal feed from the waste, the ash from the cocoa pod being used for soft soap making, and now there is a shift in the cocoa production. Now, cocoa agroforestry is increasing and is viewed as a sustainable land use practice, where it is being used to also check climate change. There's an opportunity to use solar energy for drying of the cocoa beans instead of just spreading it into the sun to take more days, especially when it's raining season. You will have a lot of them going bad, and that affects the quality. So here we looked at the simplified coconut value chain. That is also employment opportunities for the youth, women, mostly into the cocoa. The youth are basically into seedlings production. When it comes to the main plantation, the youth are hired to carry out spraying, pruning, harvesting, and transporting of coconut. Youth also intercrop with arable crops. At the processing, youth and women are hired to work, both skilled and unskilled, in the processing firms. Youth mostly sell fresh coconut, you see in our various, and that also creates a lot of jobs, opportunities for the youth in selling the fresh coconut. Women are also into local processing. But even nowadays, I see some of the women also selling fresh coconut. Women are also into local processing, into oils and other candies. Returnees into small to medium processing. With the marketing, youth high skilled in marketing and trade. Returnees mostly found in marketing space. Women mostly into marketing of oils, into the market space. They also have the support services along the value chain. So green opportunities in the cocoa value chain. The byproduct, after taking the oil from the cocoa, the copra is a very good source of feed for livestock. The core, it is used as a planting medium for vegetables, especially with the greenhouse farming. There's opportunity to use solar energy for drying, milling, grinding. The husks being recycled to produce sacks for storage of agricultural produce. The leaves used in our homes for brooms and brushes for cleaning. Biomass briquetting made from coconut husks. All these opportunities, let's take this waste from the environment and make economic returns on these waste. So we have the oil palm value chain, the opportunities in the women, youth into seedlings production, plantation, youth are hired to carry out pruning, harvesting, transporting, women engaged in carrying the palm fruits from the farm, returnees into small to medium plantation, women mostly into micro local processing, into palm oil, returnees small to medium processing, youth hired, both skilled in the processing unit. Marketing, youth are hired, skilled in the marketing trade, returnees also into the marketing space, women mostly into marketing of palm oil. Green opportunities in the oil palm value chain. The waste, that's the bunch, the palm front, used for mulch, as well as soil conditioners. The kernel shells is used for biofuel and energy source for boiling and roasting. Byproduct from processing is used at animal feed. It's the opportunity to use solar energy to power the grinding machine and also the pressing. Oil palm trunk produce ethanol for local and industrial use. Production of liver from the trunk. They are also used as protein for both human and animal consumption. So with the cereals, I have the maize and the rice as the value chain, presenting opportunities. Returnees are into input shops, seed, fertilizer. The youth hired to work at the shop, the input shops. You have youth and women into small production, doing small production of the maize and rice. Youth and women being hired, especially when it's time for sowing. You see them being hired to sow, to apply fertilizer, and also for harvesting, threshing, and especially when it comes to the rice, you see most of the women doing the threshing. Yeah, returnees also into some commercial form of production, processing. Women are into small local processing of maize and rice. They produce maize grade, parboiled rice, corn dough. These are all local forms of processing. Returnees into medium to large scale processing, threshing and milling, where they have a automated machine to mill the rice, remove the rice bran, and sell. So aggregation, you have a lot of the women into maize and women aggregation, returnees into large scale of aggregation and processing. Consumption, women are mostly into retailing of the maize and rice at the market centers. There's also support services. These are skilled labor. They provide services within the sector. GrEEn opportunities in the rice and maize value chain. Waste from the maize and the rice used as feed, as animal feed. Biomass briquetting from rice husks and straw. There's also opportunity to use solar energy for the drying of the maize, the drying of the rice, just to also reduce post-harvest losses. The waste as organic mulch, use of organic fertilizer and chemical for maize and rice production, improve storage technology to reduce waste as the post-harvest management. Simplify to the starchy value chain. We looked at the cassava, cocoa, and yam value chain. Youth into supply of planting materials, production, and youth and women into high as farm workers to carry out weeding, planting, spraying, and harvesting. Youth went into small production. Aggregation is mainly with the women. They do a lot of the aggregation. Youth engage in transportation of this produce. Processing, women into process into other forms such as gari, flour. Returnees process into commercial ethanol. Youth hired skilled and unskilled to work in the processing centers. Retailing, women doing a lot of the retailing. So GrEEn opportunities for the cassava cocoa value chain. The waste, to just throw it away, it could be used to feed livestock. There's also a raw material for compost production. There's also opportunity to use solar energy for drying, for grinding, milling, and also clean cook stove for frying processed cassava into gari. SMV has done an extensive work in providing a clean cook stove for the cassava value chain and also for the fish smoking value chain, which uses less 30% fuel in terms of usage. It's also devoid of smoke, and that also not affect their health. Organic production of cassava and yam, improve storage technology to reduce waste. So we have the poultry value chain, employment opportunities that are in there. We have returnees and to input supply, youth hired to work at the shops, youth and women into supply of maize. You have a lot of the women doing the supply of the maize to the poultry farms. The production, youth are hired as farm workers, both skilled and unskilled. Women basically hired to do the egg collection, cleaning, sorting, and packaging. Returnees into small to medium production because of the drudgery of lifting the feed and feeding the birds. These the sorting, the eggs cleaning is being restricted, is being given to the women within the poultry value chain. So processing, you have youth and women are hired to work both skilled and unskilled at the processing firm. returnees into small to medium processing. Marketing, youth hire both skilled and skilled to work to market these after they've processed. Returnees mostly found into the frozen poultry meat, women into egg aggregation and sales of spent layers and dollars at the marketplace. Youth and women also into local processing. They do a bit of local processing. So green opportunities in the poultry value chain. The litter used for compost production as manure for organic production of vegetables and other crops. The droppings also generate biogas to provide heating for day-old chicks. There's also opportunity to use renewable energy for milling and mixing of poultry feed. Energy for cold storage facility at the processing plant, chilling of processed poultry meat. Here, SMV has done some work in Nicaragua where they have a milk chiller that is solar powered. It's a freezer, but it's solar powered just to keep and preserve the milk. We have renewable energy for hatcheries to produce heat to hatch the chicks, solar pumps, and also boreholes for access to clean water for both birds and farm workers. We have this vegetable value chain. The opportunities in the youth are hired both scale and at the input shops, returnees into input supply. Production youth are hired to carry out spraying, weeding, harvesting, and also transporting of vegetables. And you will also find some of the youth and women into small production of vegetables. Returnees into medium to large scale production, marketing, youth hired to do the marketing, women into vegetable aggregation. They are seen as the market queens at the marketplaces. They do a lot of the aggregation from the farm gate. So processing, youth are hired to work at the processing facilities, returnees into small to medium processing. You have youth into also small processing of vegetables. So green opportunities within the vegetable value chain. You have organic vegetable production where you use organic fertilizer application. Greenhouse vegetable production, also solar and pedal irrigation system for vegetable production, using recycled plastics for vegetable production. Instead of you finding it in the environment to the ecosystem, it could be used for vegetable production. Renewable energy for processing, drying, and cold storage. Waste for composting, for cross production, and also making soil fertility. So the last, we have the aquaculture that we are looking at. Youth into fingerlings production, construction of cages, returnees are into feed and drug supply. Producers, returns are into small to medium production. Youth mostly engaged in harvesting. They are hired to do a lot of harvest. Wholesale and retailers, returnees are mostly into wholesaling and fresh fish in cold stores. Women mostly into retailing of fish, fresh fish at the market centers. Women into processing such as smoking, drying, and salting. Green business in the aquaculture value chain. There's an opportunity for us to just tap into solar energy, using solar energy for cold storage, for fresh fish, for wholesaling and retailing. It's also for drying of fresh fish, promote, improve, and clean stove for smoking. As I earlier said, we have an improved stoves that produce less even smoke and use less fuel. Recycling of fresh water pond, that's the pond farming. So here we are looking at the nexus among agriculture, renewable energy, and wash. When it comes to water shortage put a lot of stress on crops and animals, making them unproductive. So access to clean water is critical in the agriculture space. The sector is also regarded as a renewable energy source. It produces biofuel and biomass. On the same line, it also contributes towards the mitigation of environmental impact from energy use by consuming sustainable energies. So we have renewable energy technologies to improve agricultural productivity. We have a lot of them that could be used for increasing productivity. in the sector. We have biomass that could be used for drying, fish smoking, solar pumps for drying foods, for also for cold storage. So we looked at along the value chain. We realized that there are some technical skills gaps that are needed in there. We've identified some of the technical skills gap that, as part of our implementation, will be used to also build capacity of our youth so that they will be relevant for the job market. We have the quality assurance in agro processing, skills, post-harvest management, principles of sanitation and hygiene, integrated pest management, management of organic matter. This is critical because we have a lot of enteric fermentation. If you don't manage the organic matter well, and this enteric fermentation releases a lot of greenhouse emissions into the atmosphere. We have best animal husbandry practices, food safety and preservation, best agronomic practices. So we also looked at the entrepreneurial skills gaps that are in here, that exist within the subsector, those value chains. We looked at strategic planning, organization skills. Marketing is key because you realize that marketing really drives the value chain, all the value chains. So it's critical to do a research, marketing skill, pricing, promotion, packaging, advertising. We need accounting and finance management. We have a lot of gap when it comes to record keeping in these agri-businesses. Human resource management, client relation and customer retention, contract and conflict management, principle of competition, sourcing for funding. Funding becomes an issue. Also for raw materials, knowledge in business registration and taxation. So, as a project, what are we offering to all these subsectors? So, as Beatrice indicated, resource 2 and resource 4. In resource 2, we'll be looking at building the skills of the youth so that they will be more flexible and adapt to the job market needs. So we'll be training and coaching at least about 5,000 youth, women, and retaining migrants. Here we are looking between 40 to 60% of the women. This also ensures that we are also mainstreaming gender in all our intervention. At least we'll be having 3,500 people have developed self-employment. So we build their capacity, even those that we want to even set up their own businesses, what it takes for them to even survive, what it takes for them to even scale up. So we do those training. We have value chain fora, annual market scans, public-private engagement, and job creation. For resource 2, at least we'll be looking at least 100 SMEs that are incubated and accelerated. We'll be looking at helping startups or those at the ideation stage to develop products that will really scale up to commercialization. And we'll also be looking at promising SMEs that has the potential for growth and also employ a lot of people. And so we are looking at least about 1,500 decent and sustainable jobs created by SMEs. So on this resource, that resource 2 and resource 4, in the agricultural, in the resource 2, this will be some of the activities, some of the intervention with respect to the agricultural sector. Our entry point, we will just use the industry skills gap to just do a lot of training for the service recipient. We'll do the training for youth and women, not only on soft skills, as I indicated earlier on, with the technical gaps and the entrepreneurship gaps that we identified. We'll be having both technical trainings and also the soft trainings as the marketing, sales, organization, gaps, integrated pest management, zero tillage, quality assurance. We also encourage peer-to-peer learning to increase knowledge building, experience sharing in the agricultural sector. For the incubation and acceleration, as I said, we will help businesses, those that are at the ideation stage and those that also looks promising to really improve their market access. We have a digital service web-based that will connect businesses and investors. SMEs looking at innovative climate smart agriculture solutions that affect multi-sectors. So thank you for your time and for participating in this webinar. We hope you've enjoyed the presentation. And at this point, these are some of the questions that we will be having. So thank you very much. Alex, I'm done. Over to you, Alex.
Yes, over to you, Jolati. Thank you very much, Mr. Franco Broby, for the very insightful presentation. I have a small boy who sees anything exciting as amazing. So I would say this was an amazing presentation. So we'll now open the floor for the open discussions. A couple of things can happen. One, to be called, kindly use the raise your hand function to raise your hand, and I'll call you by unmuting your mic so you can ask a question or make a contribution. And please, when you come on, do introduce yourself. So you mention your name and the organization you represent, as well as the role you play in that organization. Then you proceed to make your comment or ask a question. So as we prepare to do that, you can also use the Q&A session to ask your question. So before we start unmuting your mics, there's one question from the Q&A section which I would like to read as the first question to start with. The very first question, I think, so this will go to you, Frank. Joyce is asking, how can farmer associations learn from us or be a part of this project?
So, Alex, thank you. So we are having a lot of engagement. So associations are also critical in our implementation. So wherever they are, we'll get to them and bring them on board to know what are the things that they are doing. Because associations are also key in the implementation.
Okay, thank you very much. And as we can see from this screen, there are 5 questions, which are because this is a validation webinar. We also need your comments and your questions to be around these 5 questions. So I'll briefly read out our 5 questions. Have the right subsectors been focused on for job creation and business growth in the sector in the 2 regions of our concern, Ashanti and Western? So he went through a number of value chains. Which of the subsectors can offer more internship and job placement in the next 2 to 3 years? What are the other emerging skills needs at the subnational level, so that we can tailor our curriculum and training to those skills? How can we promote green agribusinesses in the agricultural sector? And how can dialogue and collaboration be established at the regional level? We would also want your comments, around these 5 questions. Let me now go back to the questions. So somebody is asking about how we define migrants. Are they workers who have traveled from one region to the other and are encouraged to go back home in ease? Or are we talking about Ghanaians coming home from abroad? So to briefly to respond to this, when we talk about migrants in the context of this project, we are referring to people who have returned from outside Ghana. So not internal migrants. No, it's those who have returned from outside. Okay, so now let me go to the questions. Please raise your hands. And no hands raised. Okay, there is Mr. Gideon Wachi, please, please
Yeah,
ask your question. Yes.
yeah, mine is not a question per se. Well, I'm the Regional Director, Fisheries Commission, Ashanti Region. It is not a question per se, but I want to add to say that with the question for discussion, the second one, the aquaculture industry can have a lot of role to play. The sector can offer more internship and job placement in the next 2 to 3 years. This is because it's kind of a new area which is developing with a lot of interest. And when we look at the value chain, along the value chain, there are a lot of opportunities that people can tap into. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. The next is Mr. Billy Yaro. Mr.
Hello?
Billy.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes, okay. I'm Billy Yaro. I'm the West Africa advisor for Power Africa Off-Grid program. We intervene in Ghana through country advisor. So I had one contribution and two questions. The first question was around the market, which will absorb all the production which will be produced by the entrepreneurs, the youth and women that will be supported. Is there any market assessment that has been done either in Ghana or for exportation to say, okay, here is a sort of we are going to boost the production for through green technologies, and then how market really to absorb this production in the future. So that was one question. The second question is around the viability of green technology in Ghana. Is there any assessment of, private sector players in Ghana or technology around? I see you mentioned so many great technologies, solar drying, processing, oil production, for irrigation. So is there any assessment of who are the players around in Ghana? What are the capabilities, how they can really provide, what are the business model they are using to deliver their product to the bottom of the pyramid, to the last mile, and throughout this project, how will they be included in the process of that? So that was my second question. The other contribution was, as seen in the slide, solar irrigation was missed in some of the value chain as, solar pumping and irrigation was really missed as one of the green, green aspect from several value chains. That was just a remark. And at least just to mention one thing, we are producing actually as part of our program, the Power Africa Off-Grid program. We are developing a productive use of energy catalog, which will feature all the technologies available in 10 sub-Saharan Africa countries. So we have done a first draft where we pull out some of the technology which are around in Ghana. But I'm sure there might be others, and that's why also my question was around this assessment of who are the key players already around here in Ghana. So that was my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yaro. Okay, so I think before we move on to the next question, I'll let the presenter come in. Frank, please, would you respond to Mr. Yaro's question? So there's a question around if there has been, an assessment to look at viability of the private sector in terms of the players in Ghana. Who are they? And there's also a comment around solar irrigation that that potential was kind of missing. I know when we had the first presentation 2 weeks ago, it was mentioned by Michael, but it doesn't seem to feature in the presentation. So briefly, if you can respond to these comments and questions.
Yeah, so thank you very much for your question. So, in relation to the market, we are working with a partner, that's MDF, in collaboration to also establish these markets. As a project, we are looking. We are also making the assessment of all these markets that are available. Yes, we have these markets that are available, where we have a list of such market channels to ensure that all these produce, when it gets to the market, we know where exactly they are. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. We also have our energy sector lead. I think he can also speak to more to the issues around the private sector players in the, so far as renewable energy is concerned. Michael?
Yeah, Alex, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so we presented the renewable energy market scan. Mr. Diallo, we can send it for you to have a look. With regards to solar irrigation, it's one of the highest contributing sectors within the solar subsector that we are looking at, especially for farming. The Renewable Energy Master Plan has projected it to create the most jobs out of the solar sector. So it's an area that we are really going to focus on. And we are yet to do in-depth value chain analysis just to bring out the players. We already have know the players that are in the sector. Pomtech, Lawrence, Hatsun Trading in the north. We've already sort of segregated them, but we are yet to really engage with them on this.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael.
Hello.
Michael, thank you very much. So
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Michael. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So we'll move on to the next person, Mr. Prince Nenu.
Yeah, my name is Prince Nenu Yeboah, the Executive Director for European Campaign Limited. We are into production and distribution of fresh fruits and vegetables. We are located in the Western Region of Accra. My question is, he made mention of cold storage, like a chilling facility using renewable energy for processed meat. How does it work, and how can it be replicated when it comes to vegetable storage? Can he throw more light on how that system works, because he mentioned that it's being done somewhere else? The other question I have, within the value chain, based on the the vegetable value chain, he mentioned that there were returnees who are into small, medium-scale processing. What kind of processing is that? What kind of value addition are they adding to the vegetable subsector? And then the last one is when you look at opportunities, he indicated that organic vegetable production through organic fertilizer application. Most of the times, when you look at the production protocols for vegetables, it is not only about the fertilizer application. And most of the times when people use the compost or the manure, they think that they are doing organic, which is usually not the case. One of the biggest challenges has to do with pest control, where you would then be forced to use the inorganic because of diseases and pest and issues. Is the project having a technology in mind, is having something that would help in terms of pest control using organic based products? These are my three questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Prince. So Frank, there are three questions. I'd prefer that you come in and share your thoughts on all those three questions. There's one
Yes.
about cold storage, another
Yeah.
about value addition, and
Yeah.
then organic agriculture.
Yeah. So for the cost storage, as I indicated when I was making my presentation, SMV has worked in Nicaragua where they have a deep freezer, but it's being is using a solar powered to just preserve the milk, the milk from the cows. So in our context, in terms of vegetables, and we know how perishable these vegetables are, even in terms of the temperature around the vegetables after harvesting. So even from the farm, even to where either the marketplace or where you are taking it to, we could have, let's say, kind of a van where we have a container at the back where we could have solar panels that's been installed on top of it as a way to also provide a cool environment or an ambient temperature that could preserve its quality. So that is also an innovation that we could look at. And coming to what you also said in terms of pest management, integrated pest management, I agree with you when it comes to that. But as a project, gradually we'll be looking at how to mirror the two, and because we have some approved chemicals that are used, and also we looked at in terms of capacity, the kind of the residual levels when it comes to harvesting, because there are some of the chemicals when you apply, you need to leave it 3 to 4 days before you harvest. So these are some of the techniques. I agree when it comes to vegetable production, pest is really a nuisance in that value chain. So thank you. I don't know whether I have made enough.
Yes, yes, you have, Frank. I'll move on to the next question. Maybe if we can keep our questions very brief. There are a lot of people queued up, so I'll say, one question, then or one contribution, then we can move on to the next person. There's Elite Trust. I'm not sure if the name of the person. Elite Trust.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah, my name is Gabriel Aiglo. I represent Elite Trust Finecon, a consultancy firm, and we are into business development support services. I think my question was largely touched by Billy, which has to do with market. Chances are that we might probably be looking more at the production aspects, providing technology support. I don't know from which angle we are taking it off from. Is it a complete value chain development, or the focus, like many of the other projects, will be on helping them set up, produce? If it is a complete market value chain development, then I'm thinking, are we taking it from the market aspect first, like Billy noted? So this is the market, we have developed it. We have 100 tons demand, so let's produce to meet it. Or we produce and then we now go looking for market. And if in the it so happens that we don't get the market, then there will be a challenge. And again, I see that a lot of the products we are targeting are not particularly new, the sectors. Okay, and we have other people, farmers, operating there already for years. The presentation was really good. What I didn't really see was what is new, the innovation that we are bringing in. That will make these young chaps, different from, the existing, farmers, such that they can appeal more to the buyers and then make good businesses. And again, some of the new interventions.
Also,
Hello. Okay. Yeah, I think he's done. I would, Frank, please note those questions. I want another person to ask a question. Then we'll come back to you, Frank. So I think there's somebody who goes by Kwabena Asan Mens. Kwabena Asan Mens. If you can.
Okay, somebody should help. Okay, Miss Man.
Kwabena Asan Mens.
yeah, hello.
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 Hello. Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Hassan.
Yeah, my name is Kabna San, the CEO of Fed Farms and Trading Company. Yeah, thank you very much for the good work you are doing. My question is about the SMEs ahead of the incubation that you have for them. I want to know, is it that after the incubation, you allow them to go back and do what you've taught them, or there will be a flexibility of maybe they also trying to come up with some models which they've been working with previously that can also help to promote what you are doing. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, Frank, you would respond to the first group of questions, and there's a question about incubation. We would refer that to our incubation specialist, Genevieve. So I think Genevieve, if you can respond to the last question about what happens after incubation and acceleration support.
Yeah, hello, Alex. Yes, so hello.
Hello, Genevieve.
Yes. And so we are hoping that after the incubation and acceleration, our entrepreneurs will be in some form of post incubation support program where they would still receive support and opportunities in the industry. There'll still be peer learning. And if there are other projects or opportunities, we can link them to. So those are some of the things that we are working on for post-incubation program.
Okay, thank you very much, Genevieve. And like she said, the incubation stage also allows them to further develop, whatever. The incubation stage, they come in with their ideas as to what they want to do. So the expectation is that after the incubation, in addition to all the support we provide them, it's what they have done that they go back to do. But of course, they are allowed to the market space. In the market space. Frank, please, can you address the first question?
Yeah. So for the marketing, yes, of course, we are looking at a complete value chain. So on the project, we have a market and linkages advisors, business advisors on the project. They do the market linkages. So because as I was doing the presentation, I made mention of the fact that the marketing really drives the value chain. So there's no way that we will leave that option out. So we will follow through and make sure that the produce are also linked to the off-takers, the right market channels, so that we'll get the whole value chain working. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, hello. Can I come in a bit by way of contribution?
Okay, Prince. Yes, please.
Yes. Yeah, what I think is, I mean, what the initial, those who put up the question or the concern they raise is quite critical, because most projects comes and leave, and at the end of the day, once the project phases out, everything phases out. And market becomes an integral component when you are looking at the value chain, because then they drives the production. So in terms of the design, in terms of selection of beneficiaries of the project, we don't need to let it skew to those who are bringing in ideas of production, but also ideas of aggregation and ideas of markets, because that can be the driver for those who are doing the project. So it also has to do with the way beneficiaries should be selected and the whole value chain would really be implemented, because sometimes it's most possible that we talk about the value chain, but when it comes to the real on the ground implementation, that is always missing. And that will always be a challenge if it happens like that.
Yes, Mr. Menu, I think the point, your point is well noted. And I think Frank, if you look at Frank's presentation, he does really look at the value chains and what the opportunities are. Especially if you look at the resource 4 of the project, where we'll be working with SMEs and take them through incubation and acceleration. The idea is people coming up with business ideas that we think are bankable, which can be scaled up. So obviously these are not going to be just production based. There may be some production related, but there are those that will be looking at the value addition. There are those that are providing support services, like extension and all of that. So it's much broader. We will not, I agree with you. We will not focus on just production, but that's a very valid and important point. We'll move on to Mr. Daniel Sahinkwe. Daniel. Yes, please. Your question.
Hello, thank you so much. I'm Daniel Rex for the Amateur. Was I the one you were allowed to speak? I don't know.
There's another Daniel, but please go ahead.
Okay, I'm Daniel Rex for the Amateur, R&D scientist for Yara East Africa. I was trying to get the contact of somebody because you've not activated for us to see the participant list. Somebody gave a last question from Takrade as fresh fruits and vegetables, and he could answer some of the questions I have. So if I can get in touch with that person, thanks.
Yeah, but I think you can still, unless you don't want to ask the question, but you can still ask the question for all of that.
Oh, my question is basically on marketing of fresh produce. That's all.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. So I think the other Daniel is Daniel Sahinkwe. I hope I got the name right. Please, your contribution, your question. Daniel? Yeah, I think we can move on to the next person. There's Mr. Frank Ano.
Yeah, thanks, Alex.
Yes.
So good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for the presentation, Frank. I'm also Frank Ano, and I work with the Delft University of Technology in the Netherlands. I also work as the CEO of the Trans-African Hydrometeorological Observatory, and I'm a lecturer at the Civil Engineering Department of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. We are currently working with Quadaso and KNUST on the Archipelago project. I think maybe some of you might know about it, which is looking at boosting employment in the horticulture sector in Ghana. And we are actually working in the Ashanti region and have had some initial discussions with your colleagues at SNV, especially in Ghana. My question is that during the market survey, what will you say was the role of academia in promoting entrepreneurship in the agriculture sector, especially with practical skills development and ICT training? I would like to know what you got from the market survey. Thank you.
Okay, the role of academia in promoting entrepreneurship. I think we'll take another question. Mr. William Atta Nyame, please go ahead. William Arthur. Okay, I think I'll move to the next question. Aquaribo Kebo.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Please, can you hear me? Yes, so excited to be on. My name is Aquaribo Mark Kebo. I'm the Executive Secretary of Telibere. It's a farm producing based in the Upper East region of Ghana. I think very exciting insights in terms of the value chains that have been presented. I was particularly excited about addition. One of the key areas is sustainable financing. And I think that SNV has also done quite some work in the area of local mobilization through various saving schemes that become a base for blended financing. I think that that is one key area that we can also look at, especially for the areas that do not involve so much startup capital. How do we look at these financing arrangements like the village saving schemes that can support smallholders to be able to take on certain activities to be able to gain better incomes. I also belong to a group called the Ghana Federation of Forest and Farm Producers, and we have some of our members who are based in the Ashanti and the Western regions. So when we saw this, we feel that this is an opportunity for us to engage further in seeing how we can build synergies moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Makebo. So Frank, I think you can begin with Mr. Frank Ano's question around, what we found to be the role of academia in promoting entrepreneurship.
Academia is critical in our project implementation. We are collaborating with a lot of the institutions. For instance, the Kumasi Institute of Tropical Agriculture, KITA, Kwame Nkrumah University, the Horticultural Department. We have also Aquaculture, because we realize that academia also has a vital role to play, as he's saying, in terms of using ICT to do a lot of things within the green economy. So yes, we are collaborating, we are working. We've established some contacts, some discussions with some of the training institutions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Frank. So just to add a little bit more to what Frank said. So this is not directly in response to the question in respect of what the role of academia is, but on our side, on our project, there is also, especially in the area of monitoring and evaluation, there's an aspect called learning. And at this point, the project is still, we just started. We are now exploring how to work with any of the universities, but particularly a research institute in the area of learning. We are now exploring that opportunity. So it could be a research institute, in any of the universities, either in Kumasi or Takrade, Ashanti or Western region. That helps us, further explore, all the changes that are happening as a result of the implementation of the project. So we'll call them kind of learning partners. But at this stage, we are, just developing our thoughts on how that could be. I'll move on to the next person, Mr. Daniel Basi Jr. Please. Okay, before Daniel comes in, I think there's Laura Etienne. Please, can you introduce yourself and go ahead with your question? Laura Etienne. Hello, Laura. Okay, so I think we'll hold on. Please, Daniel, basically, please, can you introduce yourself and your question?
Yes, thank you, and a very good afternoon to you, your presenter, and then all my colleagues online. My name is Basi Daniel, the lead agronomist for McDaniel's Organic Foods and Horticultural Services, and also the technical advisor to the Ecological Organic Agriculture Platform of Ghana. With the critical listening to the presentation being made, all the opportunities that has been outlined for the youth and also for the returnees. Hello, am I being heard?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
All what I said has been heard already, or I need to start again?
No, we heard you. Please continue.
Okay, thank you. So with all what has been outlined in the area of agriculture activities, coming up with a lot of opportunities for the target people, I would like to ask a question and also contribute to all the various activities. I would like to suggest if real organic agriculture practices could be also injected into the some form of training or capacity building for the beneficiaries. I think it will go a very long way, because as your project name indicates, green. Green means it should be a real green, and green should be organic. Therefore, I would like to suggest and also advocate for us for that to be done. If further information regarding that needs to be known, I think I could be contacted later, and then I will throw more light into how we can really put in organic activities as part of the agriculture production of all the various crops that have been listed, that all the beneficiaries probably are now going into production of them. And I also like to respond to a question that was asked by the gentleman from Takrady regarding how insect pests could be controlled in terms of organic agriculture. Organic agriculture lives on 4 major principles, and the principles are these: health, ecology, care, and then fairness. These are the 4 major principles in the world of organic agriculture. Therefore, if you practice organic agriculture, all these 4 principles need to be present before your produce could be labeled or could be indicated as organic. When you're talking about controlling insect pests in organic, that seems to be a hell of trouble with people. With soil amendment materials, it is not really much of a problem with so many people, because even with the conventional farmers, they still make sure that they are fertilizing their soils with the compost and the manures and whatever. When it comes in terms of insect pests, to go and do the chemicals. No, with chemicals, it is not something organic. And if you ask me how these insect pests are being controlled, first of all, how are we carrying out our agricultural practices? In the first place, what most people do, the mistake that a lot of people do out there when they start farming it first, they destroy the environment first. When you destroy the environment, you should as well know that you are get yourself into trouble when pests tend to invade your farm. Why do they do that? When you start their land clearing process, that's where most people get it wrong. They don't carry out their primary tillage or their land clearing processes well. They do that, cutting every tree around. They don't know exactly which of the plants that they need to leave on the field, where their buffer zone should be, whether they've done any soil analysis. They've not done nothing, and they just clear everything, and they just want to see an open field, plowed and cleared, and then they start growing, they start planting. That is where most farmers they get it wrong, because before an insect pest invade your farm, they come and they probably start from somewhere. There are natural predators that need to be kept in your farm. And these natural predators, before they can be kept in your farm, depends on you not destroying their habitats. When you destroy their habitat, there's no natural predators to control this harmful insect pests attacking your crops. So when you miss that aspect of it, that means you're in trouble. Even apart from that, we have our own organic concoctions, where we normally use in controlling insect pests. And I'll mention one. A very effective organic concoction which is noted to be effective for organic agriculture practices, is called Neemazil. I'll mention the name again. Neemazil. It is being made from neem, and it is very, very, very effective. I could be contacted maybe after the presentation. I can give much detail about this very organic insect pest control concoction, and very effective. Even the conventional farmers have been using it more than we organic farmers. It is very, very powerful. It clears a wide range of insect pests, even including foreign work. So please, the problem or the challenge of insect pests that people keep on asking in the world of organic agriculture, we have more than solutions to all these problems. So we can be contacted and then we can really dive further into that. That's why I'm saying that if we could be allowed for us to introduce organic agriculture in this project to build the capacity of all the beneficiaries to really go into organic farming with all what they need to go, I think it will go a very long, because organic food demand for it worldwide, it is so big and big. Everybody's coming to organic food. The public has to push everybody to eat healthy. Eating healthy, living healthy. So
Mr. you are breaking. Your line is breaking, but I think we get the point you're making. Fortunately, we are happy to have you.
Can I come in a bit?
Sorry, please. Before
can I come in,
please wait. Daniel, so thank you for it's breaking. Thank you, but I think the point. Yes, I think the point about organic agriculture is well made. It's good to have you here with us, and we're also glad that you participated. Frank, I'm sure has taken notice of all the points you've made, and definitely we'll be reaching out to you for some of these very technical points that we need to help us improve our programming. Before Frank comes in, I would also like to read some of the, those who decided to use the Q&A section. So there's Esther Ejekum, I believe from Mofa. She's asking, Frank, which vegetable value chains is the project focusing? Which market? Is it domestic or export? And what level of partnership and collaboration is the project intending to have with the ministry in the implementation of this project? So what value chains, vegetable value chains are we focusing on? Is it for exports, for the domestic market? And what level of partnership and collaboration are we seeking with the ministry?
So Alex,
comment on organic agriculture and this session too.
Yeah, so for the organic, well noted. As you said, we'll also get back. But it is something that we are all looking at, because in Ghana, if you compare the premium for organic against the conventional, you realize that as Ghanaians, are you ready to pay for that premium? But notwithstanding that, we will still, as we are pushing for the green, we will still be looking at that and to ensure that we mainstream it in our activity. So we'll I'll definitely get in touch with you and see a possible way of synergies with our project. Okay. So with the vegetables, looking at the tomatoes, chili, eggplant, and cucumber. So we'll be looking at both domestic and export. So it's like with the SMEs, those that are doing for export is really an area that we want to also look at, and those that are also into for domestic, we'll also be looking at that. And with the level of partnership, we've engaged all the MOFA directors that are within those two regions. We've shared the concept, we shared the project introduction to it. So we are really, because MOFA really is a key partner when it comes to the green project. Thank you, Alex.
Okay, thank you. There is another question. I think organic is very important because it's a green project. but this is certification. So is the project designing by this question from an anonymous attendee? Is the project designing separate certification scheme packages to differentiate green products, or will we be leveraging on initiatives such as organic PGS, green label, and sustainability schemes available? So a question on certification.
Alex, I would like to take that.
Okay.
Yeah, so the program will not be designing new certification schemes. However, we will be supporting entrepreneurs in the incubation to obtain the necessary certifications pertaining to their particular products. So we will not have a separate certification scheme.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Michael. Okay, so there's a question from Michael. So let me kindly ask my question. How do I gain training and be assisted to establish my firm? So somebody is asking how he can, I think it's more how he can get access to be a participant on the project as an SME. So I think again this is for Genevieve.
Yeah, we currently have a skills training call going on. So Michael, please leave your contact. We will send you details of how you can be part of that. And as part of the training, they will consider that for you.
Okay, and then finally there is Joshua from Biocalibo. So he's asking, what are the technological considerations that the project is focusing on? I would also suggest SMV talks to GIZ on market linkages, as they have been on the forefront promoting these vegetables. So I think it's issues around. So the question is in two folds. What technological considerations is the project focusing on? And then there's a question around linkages. I think not just with GIZ, but other people within, the ecosystem. So, Frank, if you can speak to those two questions, technology and how we are collaborating with actors within the sector.
So for technologies, we'll be looking at technologies that provide solutions to address climate change issues. So it's not just a matter of looking at what is really in there, but all the technologies that will provide such a solution. These are some of the linkages that will be encouraging, and also innovations that comes with it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Sorry, Frank. So okay, I think the plan was to end at 12:30. If you would indulge us, there's one more hand up. We want to listen to that question and we would wrap up. Yusuf. Yusuf? Pumping is life. Yusuf. Okay. Hello, Mr. Yusuf. Sorry, we can't hear you. No, sorry, we can't hear you. Okay, so let me pass that opportunity on to Mr. Emmanuel Wollingjo.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, thanks for giving me the opportunity. I just wanted to contribute to the last point. How can dialogue and collaboration be established at the regional level? And what I will suggest is it possible to have regional innovation platforms? It can be a platform that will allow for beneficiaries to meet on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis that can allow for the dissemination of innovations and other new knowledge on green, the green project that is coming up, that they can uptake such innovations and let it become a reality in their entrepreneurial programs.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Willindo, on that great contribution. Because this is the point about dialogue and collaboration is very critical for the sustainability of the project. So the idea of creating a regional innovation platforms.
Yeah.
So that may not be the name. I think we have something similar, but then which allows the beneficiaries to meet regularly, not just to interact among themselves, but also interact with sector experts and other people in the market. I think it's a great idea. We have in our program we have something quite similar to that, but yeah, we will further develop this with our stakeholders in the region. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome.
Okay, so I think I'll give the final chance now. There's one more hand up, Mr. Gideon Boache.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Hello, can you please hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me once again. I wanted to find out, it seems it's been touched on a little, if research will have a role to play in this project. And I'm asking this with more emphasis on the aquaculture subsector. Thank you.
Okay, so I would respond directly to that. Yes, so research would have an important role to play during the life of this project. At project inception, this work is one of them, the market scans we are doing. In addition, we are conducting a comprehensive multi-sectorial needs assessment. These assessments will give us an idea of what the needs are, what the priorities are, and what to focus on at baseline. But in addition to that, we'll be conducting very detailed market research, which will then focus on specific themes and specific value chains. So in your case, you mentioned aquaculture. That is one area we could look at. We could look at, once the potential is there, we could zoom in and have one market research, one research that focuses on aquaculture, or perhaps even a specific area within aquaculture, and get as much information as possible. And the idea is to feed that information then to SMEs who join the project and would be operating in that sector. So yes, research will play an important role and continue.
Thank you very much.
In the project. Yes, thank you. Okay, so our time is, in fact, we've gone beyond what we had planned to do. Would like to thank all of you for sparing an hour and a half of your time with us. It's been a very great and insightful event.
My hand has been up. Unfortunately, I couldn't get my question being communicated.
Sorry, who is that?
My name is Darius.
Let me see. Okay, fortunately your mic has been unmuted, so please.
All right.
Sorry.
Thank you. No problem. I represent Activate and Smart shared technology. We are into smart technology concept providing. My question is, in assessing the key private sector players who have similar solution that can assist in helping the sector, what measures do you have in integrating concepts that have been used in other areas, similar areas like this, integrating the same concept into this platform or this a project to assist achieving the best result for the project? That is my first question. My second question is packaging has been a problem, especially when you talk about marketing. So is there the best method for assisting the end product to be packaged very well in order for it to be able to sell very well in the market? And then is there any traceability method for identifying product from farm to fork? I think these are the three key questions I want to ask. Thank you.
Okay. So so three questions, and then we'll end it here. So Frank, I would like you to attempt, the first part of the question. What measures are we adopting, or how are we adopting, measures that have worked elsewhere, concepts that have worked elsewhere, and how do we integrate them into our project? There's a question on packaging. I'll push that to Genevieve, and I would respond to the question around traceability. Frank?
So thank you, Alex. So as a project, we are still exploring and seeing collaboration, trying to establish collaboration with these industries of who have similar concepts, so that it will not be like reinventing the wheel. Then we learn, say, if we have our beneficiaries who are really interested and want to look at those concepts, why not? So we just put them either for internship or a form of a job placement. So that is what we'll be looking at. It is all about looking at what is already existing and how can we leverage on that and partner and create linkages. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Genevieve, there's a question around packaging. Yes.
Yes, thank you. So in terms of packaging, we will be looking as much as possible at environmentally friendly packaging. And yes, you make the right point that packaging is very important in order to market their produce. And so it is critical for us that you have good packaging. So we would look at that critically, and also not just any packaging at all, but having environmentally friendly packaging. We'll try to promote that for our entrepreneurs. So, yeah, thank you for that point.
Okay. So briefly on the question of traceability. So the project, of course, it's focused on best practices along the value chain. So whether it's production, value addition, marketing, so long as we are promoting, best practices, then traceability obviously is going to be part. If you come to, for instance, some of the SMEs, for instance, who might want to go into value addition or processing or whatever, we would support them with issues around registration, FDA, GSA, and all of that. And to go through all of those processes, as you would argue, traceability is important. And it would be similar for those who would go into production. We would promote to them best practices in agriculture. But the project is not going to develop, say, a traceability system. No, that's not what we do. We know that there are players within the market who are doing this. So once that comes up, as Genevieve has earlier explained, is to work with those players, but not to come up with another system.
Ms. Alex, thank you so much. But I think I didn't get my first question very well, whether in terms of integration, the existing technology and how well that can be identified and integrated into this project. I didn't get that very well. I don't know if my very good colleague can go back and then elaborate on that for us. Thank you so much, sir.
Oh, okay. So I think so before Frank comes in, I think it boils down to there was a question around the role research plays in this project, and I think you know, the response I earlier provided was, and I think it kind of aligns with, you know, with this question you're asking. So
Okay.
we know the value chains that we want to promote. We would validate this. But
Okay.
beyond this, we would also do detailed market research for some of these value chains. So the process of that detailed market research would unearth, you know, some of the best practices that, you know, that you talk about, which then the beneficiaries, the individuals and the SMEs that we work with can then adopt. Um, because market research or research is an important part of this project, that process, you know, doing the research would help us on earth, you know, all of these great ideas, concepts, innovations that are out there, which probably have not come to our notice. And the idea of the research is to use, you know, the new knowledge, the new information we get to not just improve our programming, but then, you know, make this available to the people we work with so that they also use that to improve their work. So that is basically, you know, the kind of framework we have for doing that. I don't know if that adequately answers your question.
Alex, if I may come in as well,
Yes.
just to add a small point, at the regional level, we would like to establish value chain fora or sector fora. So that would be a space where stakeholders from the public sector, the private sector, academia, service providers, so including financial institutions, can come together to discuss specific challenges and opportunities in the sector. From our perspective, of course, always with the green focus in mind. But this is a forum that will hopefully provide room for exchange and especially on lessons learned, and where information will be shared also on available technologies and things we can build on, especially the entrepreneurs and the youth seeking employment can leverage on.
Thank you very much, Beatrice, for the contribution. Okay, so I think we can say we are almost at the end of the webinar. Let me once again thank all of you for participating. But before we end, some brief announcement in terms of our upcoming events. We have, you know, the last in a series of our webinars. The last one will be on the 14th of July, which is a Tuesday. It would be on the wash sector, water, sanitation, and hygiene. So it's going to be similar to this one. As many of you as are interested, we'll invite all of you, and we'll be happy if you can participate and share your rich experiences and knowledge as you've done today. Again, on Friday, we've opened an application process for some of the youth to be trained. It's actually a pilot. So for youth who want to be trained in entrepreneurship, but also receive some training in the sectors we are interested in, agri, renewable energy, and WASH. We are doing a pilot training in July and August. We opened the application process on Monday. Because it's a pilot, it's also brief. So the application process will end tomorrow. So it's available online. If you know anybody, or if you have a network of young people you would want to experience, you know, to be part of this very first batch of trainees, we would encourage you to forward the link to them so they can also apply. So thank you very much once again for joining us on this webinar. We wish you all the best.
Hello, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We wish you all the best. Sorry. So I would also like to say this, because of the time, we would have to end this. But you have our email, so you can always, if you have a question, a contribution, you can always send an email to all of us, and we would respond to it. So thank you everyone for spending time with us and for participating in this webinar. Have a nice day.